Greetings, Wildcats. While Quaintance's recovery seems slow, this underrated Kentucky forward could be the best defender in the SEC. Many aren't convinced he'll be a great defender, but Dioubate could be a great player and defender for the Wildcats. I want to see your application so I can keep up with the latest news from the blue and white team. In Lexington, the conversation naturally focuses on the recovery of Quaintance, who, when healthy, promises to be one of the country's top defensive players. But there's another point that has received less attention than it should. The impact Dioubate could make for Kentucky this upcoming season. The forward emerges as a name that, despite being underestimated by many, could solidify himself as the best defender in the second. That's no exaggeration. Diobate's arrival to Mark Pope's program was precisely driven by the need to increase the team's defensive and athletic intensity. The coach was clear from the start of the offseason. The roster needed to change to make Kentucky more competitive in areas where it had lagged in recent years. And the answer came not only with players like Dioate and Colin Chandler, but also with the addition of a wing who combines physicality, versatility, and a relentless mentality. The numbers back up this narrative. Last season, Dioubate finished 5th in the SEC in defensive rebounding percentage and 16th in offensive rebounding, proving to be much more than just a presence in the paint. He has the rare ability to play power forward or even hold down minutes at center without losing intensity. This defensive versatility is a huge asset for Pope, especially in a conference as physical as the SEC. And if the statistics already place the player in a prominent position, advanced research further reinforces his relevance. Evan Miyakawa's analysis this summer ranked Dioubate as the 4th best defender in the transfer portal in terms of expected defensive impact, tied with Quaintance, who ranked 1st. Having 2 Kentucky players among the top 5 shows how well the coaching staff made their choices and how defense can be an immediate differentiator for this squad. Internal praise also helps build this narrative. Teammates like Jalen Lowe were quick to praise Diobate's strength and determination, describing him as someone who will beat you with his mentality alone. This kind of recognition from within the group reinforces the image of a player whose competitiveness can rub off on the rest of the squad and establish a standard of collective effort. Mark Pope, for his part, has referred to the wing as a versatile scorer, a player capable of impacting multiple areas of the court. This definition makes sense, because Dioubate not only covers space, but also sets the tone physically and imposes himself on rebounds. Within Pope's philosophy, which values speed, movement, and constant pressure, the wing finds the perfect environment to maximize his strengths. If Quaintance is seen as the pivot capable of intimidating blocking, Dioubate can be the indispensable complement who balances the defense and provides support in different game situations. And in such a competitive league, having this combination can be what separates a promising campaign from an average one. Therefore, it's no exaggeration to consider that Dioubate has the potential to be more than just a key player. He could become the SEC's top defender in 2025. If he lives up to these expectations, he will also be one of the key players in Pope's first season, demonstrating that Kentucky has identified and developed the right pieces for a championship. Mitch Barnhart's announcement this week isn't just another update on Kentucky's sports infrastructure, it's a broad, bold vision that could redefine the future of the university and Lexington as a sports and cultural destination. The Athletics director was emphatic in stating that the proposal goes far beyond a new basketball training center, although that's naturally the topic that generates the most interest. What Barnhart presented was a multi-use district project capable of transforming the campus experience and repositioning Kentucky on the national sports and academic map. It's inevitable to recall the contrast with 2022, when Calipari publicly called for a dedicated basketball training center sparking internal friction and what many called a civil war on campus. 2 years later, Mark Pope, just 1 year into his tenure, is already seeing this long-held request materialize within an even larger context. The new coach not only brought athletic renewal, but also became part of a period of institutional expansion. The proposal is ambitious. An entertainment district integrated into a multi-purpose facility that, in addition to the gymnasium, will include areas for UK healthcare, sports medicine, sports-related research spaces, and a vibrant urban infrastructure. The idea is to create a central zone between Kroger Field and Memorial Coliseum that combines restaurants, cafes, shops, green spaces, socializing, and entertainment venues, all designed to be walkable and transform the campus into a hub for socializing, not just for sports. Barnhart used concrete examples to demonstrate the project's potential. He cited Milwaukee's Deer District, which has become a benchmark for sports experiences around Fiserv Forum, and the models of Indianapolis, Green Bay, Atlanta, and Cleveland, which have successfully combined elite training centers with spaces for health, leisure, and economic development. In other words, Kentucky is not simply copying a trend, but attempting to position itself alongside cutting-edge sports organizations that have reinvented the way sports and cities are integrated. The timeline, however, is still early. The Board of Trustees approved an in-depth study, which will require 4 to 6 months of pre-design, programming, and conceptual renderings. The initial cost of this process is $1 million, but the final cost will depend on the scale of the dream Kentucky decides to pursue. The university still needs to assess financial feasibility and, above all, find a sustainable financing model. This is the key. How much can the project grow without becoming unviable? Still, even with so many open questions, enthusiasm is evident. The mere fact that Kentucky is discussing a complex of this size already demonstrates the shift in mindset Barnhart and Pope helped to establish. It's about thinking about basketball and college sports not just as competitions, but as drivers of urban, social, and economic development. The coming semester will be decisive in determining whether this vision can be transformed into concrete reality. The project hasn't even gotten off the ground yet, but it already serves as a symbol. Kentucky is willing to dream big. And this is the first step toward establishing Lexington as much more than a college town. Analyzing the offensive production under Mark Stoops at Kentucky reveals a story that, while uncomfortable for some fans, is crucial to understanding the program's limitations and potential. During his tenure, Stoops built a solid foundation on defense and organizational issues, but offensive consistency has been a persistent Achilles heel. This pattern of mediocrity cannot be attributed solely to the constant turnover of coordinators or isolated mistakes. It points to an underlying philosophy that seems to act as an invisible ceiling, hindering the offensive's evolution. From the early years under Neil Brown to the current Bush-Hamdan administration, the story repeats itself: renewed promise, new schemes, and ultimately, results that rarely stray from a methodical and conservative comfort zone. This approach, while functional at times, often fails to capitalize against stronger opponents or in situations that require creativity and explosiveness. The problem lies not only with the coordinators hired, but also with the way these systems are implemented within the framework established by Stoops. Neil Brown, for example, was one of the few to demonstrate significant progress during his 2 years in charge, especially in 2014, when the offense showed signs of life. However, even then, the numbers remained modest compared to SEC standards. Shannon Dawson, his successor, made even less of an impact, making it clear that the problem wasn't just Brown's departure. When Eddie Gran took over, the focus shifted to a dominant running game, particularly in 2019 with Lynn Bowden Jr. But this came at the expense of a virtually non-existent passing game. The dichotomy between strength and weakness became clear. The team could win games based on its ability to run the ball, but lack the versatility to compete at higher levels. Liam Prue's arrival in 2021 marked the high point of the Stoops era. On offense, with Will Levis emerging as a dual threat and the team displaying a level of balance never seen before. However, even in this moment of prominence, the offense still hasn't reached absolute excellence. When Cohen returned in 2023, the results were less impressive, suggesting that the initial success may have been more of an exception than a lasting. Transformation, Rich Scangarello and Bush Hamdan represent the most recent examples of this ongoing struggle. Scangarello, with NFL experience, failed to translate his credentials to the college field, delivering one of the most ineffective offenses of the Stoops era. Hamdan, in his first full season, failed to break this cycle, keeping the team stuck in a pattern of inconsistency and lack of creativity. The common denominator here is not the individual quality of the coordinators, but rather the larger structure within which they operate. This analysis suggests that the problem lies at a deeper level, in Mark Stoops' overall philosophy. He is a coach whose identity is deeply rooted in defense and discipline, traits that helped build the respect Kentucky now enjoys in the SEC. However, the same mentality may be limiting the offensive development. An overemphasis on control and safety often results in a predictable and poorly adaptable style of play, incapable of exploiting the nuances needed to face the conference's advanced defenses. This doesn't mean Stoops is a bad coach or that the program is doomed to failure. On the contrary, he's already proven himself capable of leading Kentucky to unprecedented heights, such as winning the Citrus Bowl and achieving memorable victories against established teams. But for the next leap to happen, an adjustment, too, the offensive approach will be necessary. This could involve giving coordinators more autonomy, investing in more dynamic talent, or simply adopting a more aggressive mindset in decisive moments. Kentucky fans are right to be frustrated, but they should also recognize the progress made under Stoops. The challenge now is to find a balance between the defensive solidity that defines the program and an offense capable of competing with the SEC's best. If this can be achieved, Kroger Field could finally become the cauldron of excitement and victories everyone expects. Don't you think? Leave your comments.